Hi, um, welcome to the academic um, tour, academic paper tour, if you will. Um, the objective here is to provide you with an overview of the structure of an academic paper and how the parts fit together, and a brief introduction to the sample. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see as I go along. Okay, good. Right, as you can see here, we have the journal and the date, your topic, and these are the authors. Okay, this is a proper research article published in an international journal by professors, in this case, Professor Martin. And you will notice first up that every academic paper has an abstract. And the abstract is basically a summary of the entire paper. Sometimes when researchers are looking for information and so on, they can't see clearly. So they don't have the time to go and read a 30-page research paper in depth because as you can see, or as you have already experienced with the sample paper, the writing is quite dense. It requires great concentration. It's not an easy read. So the abstract provides you of a bird's eye view, like a thumbnail of the whole paper. So as you can see here, they give you the goals and they tell you how the study was conducted, how many people were involved, and then what the results showed, and the conclusions and what the findings suggest. They give you a very summarized picture, right? Thumbnail of the whole paper. This helps researchers that are searching to find the information that they need quickly and to decide. Obviously, papers cost money, and in order to use the paper, you have to pay for it, or your university has to pay for it. And each paper can cost around $30 to $40. It depends. So there you go. That's the abstract. Now, every paper will have this. Okay, we'll do more on how to write an abstract as we go along. But when you come across an academic paper, this is the format, the standard format. Every paper follows. You have your abstract first. Okay, and then after your abstract, you have something called keywords. Now, this is very important because the keywords are like search words, right? So when you are searching on, let's say, a search engine like Google, you will type in a keyword and it links to this particular article. These are like kind of categories, like this one is distance learning, online teaching learning, pronunciation, computer assisted language learning. All of these are key areas or papers where you will find your paper and the research that you want to find, right? Next, you have the citation. This is optional. It's a style thing. This is done. It shows you how to find this article, how to reference this article. If you're using this article in your paper, then this will appear at the end of your paper. Okay. APA citation. APA stands for American Psychological Association. It is widely used. It is the adopted standard for scientific papers. Now, those of you who are theology, you will probably use Chicago or Harvard because those referencing systems allow you to reference the Bible and God. But in APA, it is difficult because the Bible isn't considered scientific research, so it's difficult to reference the Bible and so on. So Harvard or Chicago preferred citation methods, but you will do that with your professors when you get to the seminary and you continue to study with them. So for now, we're going to focus on APA because that is the standard used by the world and it is the standard used by scientific research as such. Now, when you start your paper, you start with the introduction. Okay, now this is obvious. And every paper needs a proper introduction. Now, in your introduction, you want to introduce the situation as much as possible, right? So you want to basically put into your introduction all the information that sets the stage, right? You give it background, you give the history and all the information that you want to make the reader understand the context that the paper occurs in. And of course, you will talk about, what led you to the study, what other people have pointed out, and so on. So you can see the referencing here that is done, right? The researchers' names and the year it was done. This is very important, because if you say something and it is found out that someone else said it before you did, then it's considered plagiarism, and that is a massive, massive problem with legal implications. Next up, as you can see, we have a literature review. Now, this may be a little misleading if you've never come across it before, but a literature review is basically where you look at what other professors or other researchers have done in this area. And the research in the literature review should show why your research is important. In other words, you must now show the area that you are researching not many people have looked at or people haven't considered, and you're trying to fill in the gap, right? So basically you have a picture with the piece of the puzzle that you are researching that you want to make a contribution to. So let's say you have a 100-piece puzzle and 99 pieces have already been researched, but one piece is missing to complete the picture. So you want to show that your research or your research paper covers that missing piece. So in the literature review, you will see a whole lot of people's research. You will find a lot like During and Monroe and the year 2015 and what they said, and another like Cooper and so on. You'll find so many people's work that is cited under the literature review. And the literature review helps to state why your study is important, right? So you can see here. Then the next section we come to is methods after literature review. Under methods, we want to show basically how we conducted the research. So basically the participants that you have here, people that participated in your study, right? So their age and how many people in the groups, how many groups, and so on and so on. The next, you have your treatment materials, which you can also include. They've done this in great detail here, perception units. They explained testing materials and the procedure, how you went about conducting it, how the scoring was done as well, okay? And so on. And then the data analysis that comes, how you conducted your data. So basically this follows the method of how you conducted the experiment, how you collected your data, how your data was analyzed, okay, and so on. So here you're basically giving information that would allow another professor to conduct the same experiment at their location. So if you are in South Africa and if I'm in Norway, I can look at your research and go, that's interesting. So I can look at your method. Let's see how this professor went about conducting the research, what methods he used to collect his data, how the data was scored, how he analyzed it, and so on. So under analysis, you'll see all the different types, like Shapiro-Wilks tests and so on, for various data sets. So basically, this will tell me what I need to use, right? And it will help. Then the next big section we have is the results. Now, the results, in this section, we do not discuss what they mean. We only state what they are. So, for example, if I'm proving to you 1 + 1 = 2, under the results section, I will have 1 + 1 = 2, right? 2 is the result. But I won't explain what it means, Okay, just the results. So if you look at the results section of any paper, there is no discussion. However, some papers put results and discussion together. So you can read the results and their meaning at the same time, but I don't recommend that because it can get a little confusing. So just the results, right? You can see here, they've only the results, right? Oops. Only the results. So all over the graphs and so on, all results. So it does not explain anything, just what the test results were. Okay, next up, we have discussion. Now, in the discussion, you discuss your results. Okay, so whatever your results were and what they mean. So for example, if you say 1 + 1 = 3, you will discuss that when husband and wife have a child, they are now 3. Okay, so that would be a discussion. Uh, you would say that the child is born to both mother and father, and there are 3 people in the family and stuff. But if in the results section, 1 + 1 = 3, it has no meaning until you explain it, which is what happens in the discussion section. Okay, so as you can see here, they talk about the results and so on. And then finally, we come to conclusions. Now, conclusions is not a reiteration or stating one more time what you've covered before. The conclusions is as a result of your study. What can we deduce? What can we draw? What are the implications? What are the further areas that we can study to improve on this area? So under conclusions, you will sometimes also have future implications, or you will have something that says suggestions, findings, recommendations, and so on for future research and so on. All of that would fall under conclusion. But here you sum up your paper, okay? Under your acknowledgement section. Now, this is also very important. If I gave you 100,000 Rand for your research, you need to state it here. This research, for example, was provided by the language learning dissertation grant and the information about it, right? And people who helped you and so on, you want to write as a matter of courtesy, um, mention their names. Now, this is an interesting area. The reason we have it here is, for example, if you are studying, let's say, sugar, your hypothesis was sugar causes diabetes, right? So, and you study that particular area, and let's say Coca-Cola gives you R1 million for your research. Now, obviously, you're not going to say that the excessive amounts of sugar in Coke can lead to diabetes if excessively consumed and so on and so on, because it may cause a conflict, and the Coca-Cola company might be upset that your research results yielded a negative um, result that caused their company, to be put into a bad light. So what I'm trying to say is the person that is responsible for your research um, may influence it in some way. So when you see who supported the research, it throws the results under greater speculation. So if you say smoking does not cause cancer, this research was supported by Peter Stuyvesant, extra mild or extra strong or whatever brand. So it may cause your results to be looked upon with some skepticism. So you must declare who supported your research. Some research is supported by independent organizations that want the truth, not to be influenced. Okay, because a lot of times research can be influenced by the people who pay for it to be done. Okay, so that goes in your acknowledgements, and then notes is also something that depends on the journal. Sometimes some journals have them, some academic journals do not. In the references section, now you will see here. Okay, for example, let's take an easy one, right? Let's say, okay, so you can see here, for example, Gordon and Darcy, right? So Gordon J and Darcy I. So these are the two professors that conducted the research, the year it was published in, the title of the paper, the journal in which the paper occurs. This would be the edition of the paper and the page numbers, right? So this particular referencing style is APA referencing style. Currently, we have the 7th edition of APA, which we will be learning. You will also notice that some papers have a DOI, direct object identifier or document object identifier. This is basically the code for the paper. So without the title, without the researcher, the paper has a registered code as proper research that was conducted. All of them will have a DOI if you get it from an online journal, right? Or from somewhere. So you can see this has got to organize a website, another DOI, another DOI. So if you use online online databases and online journals, they all have document object identifiers that give you their identifying code. Each paper, each research paper has a code, right? Sometimes there's an appendix. The appendix, you have the lists of the questionnaires, and you can add other information that is not necessary to the paper you're working on, but you know, it is helpful for people who are wanting to conduct the same research again. Okay, and you can have as many appendixes you want. Sometimes at the end of your paper, you can they will ask you for a biography. The style may vary, but the structure is the same for most journals, right? So this is the professor's name and which university, right? So she's a professor in the languages and cultures in the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. She teaches German, French, linguistics, and her specialty and so on. And she has the contact details. So if you want to email her, you can email her at this address. Okay. So this is basically your academic paper, and this is the structure that we want to follow, right? For this semester, I would like us to prepare one of these research articles. Okay, so I would like each group actually to prepare one of these research articles to conduct research, but more about that later. So I just wanted to introduce you to the academic paper. So welcome to academic writing, and this is your academic paper, what it looks like at university level. Okay, I hope you have a nice day. Enjoy.